Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Bookhardt. Come join us at our newest clinic location at Good Faith Wellness Center. We provide compassionate health care for your entire family, from virtual visits to office appointments. We're committed to providing the best care. We accept all insurances and we provide monthly wellness plans. Let's start your family journey to a healthier, happier life. Schedule your appointment today. And remember, true wealth begins with good health. Hello, I'm Dr. All right. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Telehealth Tuesday. I'm Dr. Michael Bookhardt, your host, and this is your go-to podcast for modern insights and wellness solutions. Today, we have an amazing show set up for you, but just in case, I want you to know that we can be viewed on multiple platforms, especially DoctorBTV, that's DoctorBTV, the letter B, TV on YouTube, and also Instagram Heart of Music and Good Faith Wellness Center on Instagram and Facebook alike. Make sure to please follow, like, share, tag. Most importantly, to subscribe, especially on DoctorBTV, to make sure you don't miss a beat on this amazing program. Now, just before we get started, I want to tell you all about our next guest who I can see backstage. You know, we are operating remotely today, and so we had a few challenges, but nevertheless, we appreciate those of you that have been patiently waiting and standing by for none other than this amazing young lady. Now, look, she has got a bio even longer than mine, so I'm going to try to shorten it just a little bit. I'm talking about Dr. Ari Johnson, PT, DPT, OCS, CMT. She's going to tell us about all those abbreviations and degrees because I don't even know. So she's going to tell us all about those. Doc, can you hear us backstage? I see you back there. Wave at me if you can hear me. Okay. All right. So Dr. Ari Johnson is a board-certified orthopedic physical therapist, entrepreneur committed to advancing rehabilitation, prevention, and representation in healthcare. She's a 2020 graduate of Alabama State University. She began her career during the COVID-19 pandemic. We all know about that. We remember that. And she quickly established herself in orthopedic practice across multiple care settings. Dr. Johnson practices in both outpatient orthopedics and home health, allowing her to treat patients across the lifespan and continuum of care. Her clinical approach emphasizes load tolerance and long-term injury prevention, particularly in the management and education of back pain. Woo! So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you what. Let's bring her out here. I know you're anxious to see her. So, ladies and gentlemen, hear ye her. She, we'll get it right. My mom's an English professor. Well, her, she said her. Hear ye her. Dr. Ari Johnson. Give it to her.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I was making sure that you got all the stuff. I said, oh boy, and I know we're in different states and all that, but the good Lord prevailed and you are here in the flesh. How are you feeling?
I feel great. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. We are even happier to have you. So look, Dr. Johnson, we'll get right to it. I know we're a few minutes late. Tell us all about, I talked about your bio, but is there anything that I missed or that you would love for the audience to know about you?
No, I think you hit all the high points. I made a recent transition into academia, so I've had my foot in that world for a little bit, but now I'm moving into that educational aspect where I can make more of me, basically, promote more of that mentality, and be able to outreach as much as I can into the healthcare system and make a difference.
Absolutely. And hello to our viewers and fans and friends over there in Instagram land. I'm switching back and forth, so if you see me looking kind of, I'm going between screens. So let's dive right into it. You're in Alabama. What part of Alabama are you in again?
I'm located in Atlanta, actually. So I'm from Alabama. That's where I got my doctorate of physical therapy degree. And then
Okay.
I relocated to Atlanta just in time for the pandemic to meet everything being closed down. So I've been here since then and exploring and becoming an Atlantean, I guess you'd say.
Now, how has that been practicing in Atlanta compared to being in that? Because, I went to undergrad. I know we had messaged about it. I was in Huntsville, Alabama, and I went to the Oakwood University in Huntsville. So, I know, are you familiar with Huntsville?
I am. I'm more familiar with Alabama A&M. That's where my mom actually went to school. So I've gone there and I've explored the campus, done a speaking engagement before. I think my familiarity, I will say, I'm reaching back into my archives. I have some friends that I used to work with that actually went there. So Oakwood is an HBCU, is it not?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. All right. And did you do any pledging or anything? Any Greek organizations?
I did actually. I saw your letters on your shirt. So I crossed Alpha Kappa Alpha at South Alabama University in Mobile in spring
Right.
of 2015.
All
Sorry,
right.
2015.
Okay, Sora. Even more of a pleasure to talk with you this evening. Then, so so tell us all about. I wanted to go ahead and start off with chronic pain, something that millions and millions of Americans suffer from. Hold on one second. Let's try to get this glare out. Hold on one second here. We got some glare in the background. One second, everyone.
Hmm.
Let's see. All right, let's see. All right, we're right here, guys. We're just adjusting some lighting. Oh man, that's so much better. So much better. Oh man, it feels better, you know. We're talking about chronic pain that affects millions of Americans, and especially my own mother. My own mother. And so, what would you say? What is it that we can do to help people right here at home with chronic pain, chronic back pain? What? Tell us about some of the treatment programs and modalities that you personally use at your company.
Well, for me, movement is medicine. So, as a doctor of physical therapy, I'm not prescribing medicines. I'm not prescribing like a pill in that form and in that avenue. But having someone move and knowing that exercising and moving their body is going to be the best type of medicine that they can have. It doesn't have side effects that you have to worry about, where now you're concerned about your liver, your gastrointestinal systems, and then other adverse effects that will come from chronically taking pain medicine. So, on the prevention side of things that I love to advocate for, if somebody doesn't have any pain or if they're just starting to feel some pain, getting up and moving. We sit entirely too much. We
Mm,
have our jobs where we're sitting 12 hours a day. We'll sit in the car to leave work and go back home, and then we're sitting on the couch after that. So, getting up and moving and trying to work the muscles that we tend to forget about for somebody that is in chronic pain and that has already kind of been passed down that track in the healthcare system, knowing that movement is an avenue and that it might hurt, it might be uncomfortable because
mm,
you haven't used those muscles. But the more you be able to gradually load those muscles and introduce that new movement, that's when your body starts to respond and say, oh, okay, this is what you want me to do. Because in general, we train our bodies for what we want to be able to do. Just like you see a marathoner, they're going to get up and run, and they're going to train for how much they have to run. For
that's
us,
right.
we're sitting and sitting. We're training our bodies to be able to sit. So now when we go to stand up and walk and lift, we have pain.
That's right. Well, this really hits home for me because again, I was just saying that my mother, who's been battling this, for a long time, and she would always say, and she's right within earshot of this, and I say, that's why I was really kind of saying, ain't that right? I'm cheering you on because it's like, slight bit of shade, but I'm literally telling her, I said, look. She says, "You don't understand how it feels, Mike. You don't understand how it feels." And I said, "Well, I have my own chronic low back pain that I suffer from. I got flat feet, and that definitely causes issues with your back, as you know, and your pelvis and the orientation of your spine. My business partner and friend is a chiropractor at our practice, Good Faith Wellness Center. Um, what I said all that to say, so we have so many Americans that are addicted, to opioid medication, narcotics such as Percocet, Norco, all this bad stuff. And my mom says, well, I don't feel like going to the. Sometimes she used to cancel her physical therapy appointment, OT, and then hadn't even seen my own business partner who's in my own practice. I've been saying this 2 years. Well, I don't know. I had surgery and this and that. So I'm saying all that to say, what are your thoughts on these patients? How do we motivate these people to get them to see, look, get your ASS up off the couch and come into the office, see the therapist. see the chiropractor and get rid of those narcotics? How do we do that?
I love that you mentioned this, and I really relate to you on this because I have my mother as well, where I try and bring these same things home to my parents. So when I'm home in Alabama, the last time I was home, actually, I took her through a whole workout session, and I was like, okay, these are the muscles we're going to work. This is what we're going to do. And she's like, is this what you give your 80-year-old patients? And I'm like, yes, ma'am. I don't care how old you are. You still need to move your body. If you want to be able to get up from the floor and do these things, you have to be able to do it. My mom, she said, and I quote, that's hard work. It's hard work. I told my mom,
Hmm.
so is being sick. Being sick is hard work too. Not being able to
Wow.
do it for yourself. That's hard work. You got to choose your hard. That's
Say,
the favorite quote that I
say
got from.
that. Would you say that again, Dr. Johnson? You said what's hard work, but you said choose your. Say that again, please. Say that again.
So with my mom, I told her we're working out. She's like, "Oh, this is hard work." So if you're working out, you're exercising, going to physical therapy, doing the exercises, that can be hard work. We might not experience your pain. Might not be able to say, like, I know exactly how you feel, but we can all be able to level and say it's hard work. But so is being sick. So is not being able to wipe your own bottom, not being able to get yourself up out of your own bed. That's hard too. So you got to choose your heart. Do you want to be able to work hard and do for yourself? Or do you want to be able to wish you could do that for yourself and then have a hard time in bed having people do for you?
Wow. To be honest with you, because I know you had we had messaged each other online, and you were saying about the sending things or sending the link ahead of time. And normally, what I try to do, especially with you and I, since we had never met before, I'll send, we'll generate some questions, 10 or 12 questions that we have prepared, and send them, especially if the guest wants to look them over. They don't want to be caught by surprise. But honestly, because this is such a common topic and something that truly plagues so many people, and even how I appreciate you sharing about your own mother, just like mine. I knew that this was something we could identify with, and I said, "Man, this doesn't even require any preparation. We're just gonna get on here. The good Lord is gonna work through us, and because it's something that I know that I'm passionate about. Obviously, you're passionate about it, so." And that brings me to my next thought. So many people say, because for whatever reason, us the medical doctors train in Western medicine, allopathic medicine, and so it's always going to be, here's a pill for this, here's a pill for that. And unfortunately, people say, well, Dr. Bookhardt, why is it that you guys don't get trained on herbal medicine, naturopathic, true preventive care? And I said, why would we? Then we would stop the trillions of dollars in profit to the pharmaceutical companies. And the whole point of, unfortunately, modern medicine is to keep you sick. Hello. So it's not really about getting people well. And I know that people cringe hearing that. So how can you be a doctor saying that? Well, that's what it is. And here we keep it real. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like that you bring that up. And even to take it back a minute to what you mentioned about like having questions, having conversation, this is something where we can both meet each other with that passion. I can talk for hours about this, as I'm sure you could as well, where there's so many different facets that you can be able to look at this from and be able to analyze like this whole pandemic, this epidemic that we're dealing with when it comes to back pain. So even when you mention like the pills and the medication and how we're trained, it's a system, right?
Right.
I can go into so many tangents when I talk about that and emphasize that. Even when we talk about how you have been able to go on and make your own business, we're not taught that in school. We're not taught how to be able to be independent thinkers. We're taught how to promote the system. And unfortunately, the system is based off of capitalism and the dollar. So
Mhm.
being able to stray from the crowd and walk the path that is less traveled, that's being able to dictate from that and being able to change the system in a way. So I think we can both identify with that.
Absolutely. I see my buddy Dexter Mayberry on there. Are you still on there, Dexter? Man, drop us a line in there. He made a comment. Said, learning to reduce stress, eat more leafy greens, berries, and pineapple. And so I guess what you're maybe alluding to, Dexter, you might want to be talking about foods that are rich in antioxidants or superfoods As okay, he says, yeah, some herbs that people can use. Yeah, cat's claw, turmeric with black pepper, uh, devil's claw, clovers, boswellia, yoga, yoga pose, baby pose. See, I don't know about you, Doc. Have you heard of this stuff? Especially yoga and baby.
Turmeric,
You heard?
yeah, turmeric is definitely a big one when it comes to like herbal approaches. I have not been able to dive deep and see all of the homeopathic things. I definitely have talked to patients and people that have been able to explore some of that and definitely see some big relief. I was actually talking to someone going back to the old school Epsom salt and using those things where you're just you trying to find avenues in which you're not having to rely on those medicines, but definitely starting to take a closer look for what you do put in your inside your body,
Right.
starting with those foods, those leafy greens. So to kind of capitalize off of what he's mentioning, that goes to the inflammation component. So
Mhm.
chronic pain, after you've had pain for so long, and let's define what chronic pain is.
All right, let's
You
do it.
look at chronic pain, anything past 3 months. So once you've had pain going on for past 3 months, that's when it becomes chronic. And a lot of people, they're at that 1 year, 2 year, 10 years. They're like, I don't even know how long it's been going on. At that point, most people probably don't have a mechanical injury. What I mean by that is they don't have tissue damage or fracture or something that actually needs to heal. They have chronic inflammation from one, that component that I mentioned, that they're not moving enough and being able to get those juices, those movements in their back that help everything. And then two, the foods that they're eating. So what he mentioned about the leafy greens and everything you're putting into your body, the berries, all of those things are antioxidant and anti-inflammatory to be
Mhm.
able to help fuel your body and calm down a lot of the inflammation that you're having too.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to put this and let our Facebook family know. I know you had your Instagram. You're on the Facebook as well under.
I have Renaissance Rehab. That's the business name that I work under. I haven't devoted as much to that Facebook group. So, as in terms of Facebook, it's just going to be my individual name. Most of my business practices are going to be marketed with Renaissance Rehab on Instagram. I also have a website, myrenaissancerehab.com, where there's information and connecting, being able to connect with me there.
Okay, awesome. We're just putting up. We wanted everyone to know that we are live with you right now. Hang on just one second there, and it's under your regular, so under Ari, like your personal page.
Yeah, my Facebook is just my personal page for business relations and anything in terms of like that medicine and information that I'm pushing out for marketing for like back pain, how to get out of back pain. Best way to connect with me is on Renaissance Rehab on Instagram.
All right, we are hooking all those things up right now. We are getting that. Yeah, I'm not sure which area Johnson. Yeah, I don't want to tag all these folks. I'm not sure which one is you saw, but we got your business page.
Yeah, that's
Renaissance.
gonna be the best place. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how'd you come up with that? That was another question I had. What Renaissance Rehab? Tell us all about that.
I'm glad you asked me about that. So I have been on my journey. I mentioned like how I graduated in 2020. Before that, even I was into like the social media space and just trying to be like a leader in diversity in healthcare. So this Renaissance Rehab, the name comes from kind of a melding and a nod to the fact that I have so many interests and I'm always doing so many things. The highest compliment that I've gotten from like friends that know me and people that understand like my passion is saying I'm a Renaissance woman. So in that meaning that I'm so reinventive, I'm always looking for like a way to try and redevelop myself and approach things against the grain from how they would be and always learning new things. So that's what my brand kind of encompasses too, where it's a little bit of the education component of addressing back pain and then that mentorship and leadership in the community for healthcare to show other people who want to be a physical therapist, who want to be on healthcare, but maybe they don't see somebody of color or see that diversity because
Mhm.
in general, we treat the people of health disparities, which typically are going to be people of color. So to have a healthcare profession that doesn't look like the people that mainly need that care, that's where that diversity component and all of these interests kind of come in for me.
That's so interesting. Dexter says most people are addicted to the main corporate excess sugars, fried foods, alcohol, seed oils, the nightly snacks, the ice cream, foods or artificial chemicals, the processed meat, the processes meats, oh, you're saying the processed meats, okay, especially pork and red meat. All these things will raise the inflammation in the body. Most people won't change. Most people want change, but you're saying that they won't change. Yeah, you know, I couldn't agree more, Dexter. And of course, in the hospital and in our practice in the hospital, we see this all the time where I had a guy just last week, and this guy, man, he's, probably 400 pounds or so, 400 some pounds. And he says, my significant other, she's on dialysis. So this guy comes with shortness of breath, fluid overload. His legs were all swollen up. He's completely swollen. He's to the point where his kidneys are shutting down. He may need dialysis. We start going. Long story short, Dexter, we start going over what's a typical day like for you? What's lunch looking like and dinner? He says nothing is consistent. Always making excuses. Not taking his insulin, not taking his blood pressure medicine, all this. And then even when it got time to be discharged from the hospital, his blood pressure was 200 over 127. And I said, sir, you're going to have to sign yourself out because I cannot be liable. We still have work to do with you. And so my point in getting to that is just like Dexter saying, this guy, like he says, I don't want to be on dialysis, but you're not willing to do the work. So I feel like it's the same thing when it comes to our chronic pain patients, because a lot of times these people are, if sometimes, a lot of times they're elderly, sometimes not, but most of the time they're just miserable, they're fed up, but they have all these different reasons and excuses why they can't do what it is they need to do. And I feel like, it even gets me frustrated, Doc, but I'd love to hear from you. Again, I know we talked about how you motivate these folks, but man, how do you deal with that? Or if they don't do right, do you just fire them?
I try and get into the psychology of the person. So, health promotion is one of the areas that I have dived into over the past year or so with teaching and education. So, a few components of that I try and apply is identifying motivational interviewing as a tactic to approach these patients and having them not telling someone this is what you need to do right, this is what you need to change, but having them identify that themselves and then verbalize, okay, do you want to be like this or do you want to see change? And then understanding and having appreciation for the fact that it's not going to change in one session, in one encounter. These are things that have to be compounded and ingrained tirelessly over sessions, over time, and via different healthcare providers. So maybe you weren't the person to reach them, but you were able to plant a seed for them and be like, hey, this is a problem. So the more they kind of go on through life and they talk to that next healthcare provider and they're like, hey, this is a problem. Hey, this is what we need to change. The more they're kind of pushed in that direction for what needs to be able to identify and change their lifestyle.
And I think that's a good way to put it, because for the most part, the tactics I use, and I'm a very kind of straightforward, you can tell, blunt, but and everybody doesn't need that type of energy, but it usually, because I'm used to working in kind of with hard-headed, more stubborn folks and all that, and usually if you don't break it down to them in a certain way that they know, hey, this is like, just like with most male patients, I know you may get a kick out of this, but I have a talk that I do that's called an annual exam or a ticket to the grave. The choice is yours. And people say, man, what do you mean? And I have them start off by closing their eyes, and I do this whole metaphoric thing and talk about, and I say, now open your eyes. I say, that's what it feels like to be in a casket. And so, I kind of hit them with the zingers. And then for the male patient, when they won't do right, I say, well, hey, the only time a man comes to the doctor is either when the female person in their life, whoever that is, their mom, daughter, sister, cousin, wife, significant other, makes them go. The other reason is if they have a penis problem. So So those are always, people are always like, they get a laugh out of that, and the guys sit shocked. But it's like, I feel like sometimes we just gotta drill it home. And then sometimes I know there are patients that don't need all that, but yeah, that's just been like that. My patient population, they need that. So I want to know, what kind of patients do you have out there in Atlanta? Like, does it require all that, or do you have one of those practices where they're coming in and fully motivated and hey, it's all good?
I'll get a little bit on each end of the spectrum. Atlanta's a really big place, and demographically, it can really depend when we think about like the system that we're in. Of course, there's a lot of like redlining in
Mhm.
Atlanta in terms of what access to care looks like and health literacy. So there's some conversations that I'm having with people where they're like, "Hey, I already know what I need to do. I just need a little bit of guidance and a little bit of a push." And
Yeah.
then I have my other people where I have to walk them through everything, and for them to even understand, hey, you have hypertension and you have congestive heart failure, you shouldn't be eating these saltines, where we might have just had a conversation previous, like, are you eating what you're supposed to? And they're like, yeah, I haven't had anything with salt today. And
Hmm.
then they're just the psychology that they don't even identify that as an issue and as a problem. And while we're on the topic, it's funny you bring this up too, because I was doing some continuing education today, and I want to read to you, if you don't mind, a few of the stats from the course that
Please,
I was going over online.
please do.
So, chronic disease is largely preventable. Lifestyle induced diseases plaguing our population. So, those are the conditions including diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, metabolic syndrome,
Hmm.
and your congestive heart failures, heart attacks, strokes, all of these things. So, that accounts for about 70% of all deaths. 50%, about 50% of Americans have at least one of these. Okay. So when we're talking about all of these conditions and how these chronic diseases happen, and we go back to what we mentioned about the food and the healthy choices, most of these are really preventable. I don't want to say 100%. There is a genetic component that also goes to it, but we have so much in our power for this not to be the case. But if anything, we're thinking about what's going on in the world and how we're being affected and what's going to happen in terms of, oh, should I get on this plane and get in this car? But we're eating our chips, and that's the thing that's going to take us out as a unit.
Mm.
Eating
That's
those
right.
foods and those compounded small habits that we're making every day that actually end up being our downfall 20, 30 years later, costing trillions of dollars in healthcare.
Don't even get me started. Absolutely. I mean, I appreciate and thank you for providing us with those statistics, but and it's just, even though I know those things personally, man, just to hear it, hear it like you were saying, the majority of these things are actually preventable. Some people who, genetics and all that kind of stuff, and you can't control what you're born into, and if there's a food desert, lack of resources and all that. But for the most part, if you're an able-bodied adult of sound mind, and it's kind of like no, excuse. Just like with Good Faith Wellness Center, we have three plans. If for people who don't have insurance, $99 a month, unlimited visits, uh, t- uh, a couple of two for I mean for a couple, or it might be, or just maybe two people or two siblings or whoever, but two people, two individuals, 179 a month. And for either a family of four or four individuals that are going in together, 229, and that means unlimited visits. And so, but especially the most popular being the $99 individual plan, I say, hey, that usually for most people, unless you get a corporate discount or whatever, most people's cell phone bill these days is higher than that, unless you have Metro or anyway, but or ceasefire. I'm just joking now. I'm just joking, okay. But yeah, that's it's a lot. That $99 is a lot less than what people pay for your cell phone, what people pay for their snacks, going out to eat, going out to dinner, going out on a date, it costs you what, at least $75, $100, especially people eating entrees and drinks. And so it's kind of like all about what you want to prioritize, and so
The thing with that, though, as accessible as you make that, we can bring the gym to somebody's house. They still will be, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. They'll
Mm,
still find a way to put it off. They'll still say, oh, well, it's not that bad right now. So
you're
when we
right.
go back to the psychology and we're talking about, well, what do you do with those people where you've done everything you can to try and help them? I go to them and I ask them, okay, if your life was exactly like it is next year, how
Mm,
would you feel? If you couldn't get up and go to the refrigerator and check the mail without being short of breath, are you going to feel good about that? Are you going to be happy with how your life is? If they say yes, there's nothing really I can do. Your mindset, you're content for how things are. You're not ready to change yet.
mm.
If they say no, then that's where we have the opportunity to be like, hey, we need to be able to make some changes and make some habits to get there. Why put off tomorrow, which you can do today?
What you can do today. That's right. That's absolutely right. I want to take a quick pause for the cause. Ladies and gentlemen, you are here with Telehealth Tuesday. I'm Dr. Michael Bookhardt, your host, and this is your go-to podcast for modern insights on health and solutions. We are joined by none other than Dr. Ari Johnson, PT, DPT, and a couple other abbreviations. And so we are so thankful that you have joined us. There's a million things that you could be doing on this Tuesday night, but instead of that, you have chosen to be right here with us on a Tuesday, always on a Tuesday. So tonight we are talking about chronic pain, something that is affecting so many people right here at home. It is debilitating, and some people it's even leading to their death, ultimately causing so much pain, so much despair, so much depression. And so Dr. Johnson's going to talk to us about Renaissance rehab and the treatment modalities and things that she's doing and what she's offering, how she motivates her patients. So the average patient comes in, doc, with chronic back pain, one of the most common causes for people to come to see providers in America. So they come in, man, I've been plagued with this. They tell me, doc, I got bad arthritis in my back, my hips, I got bone on bone in my knee. What can I do? How do you start with that patient? And could you maybe even just describe some of the treatment modalities that you do? Maybe even describing how you work on frozen shoulder, or how you manipulate, or how you help them do things that can help them feel better.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer in a twofold answer. If
Okay.
I'm working in person with somebody and I have them come in, I do an evaluation. It starts with a conversation. I want to get to know you, what your problem is, and kind of how we got here. I do a movement assessment so I can see what are our problem areas, what are our impairments. So, what are the things that are causing the issue that we have a lot of margin to see some improvement with and really get to the root cause of everything? Because that's the goal with physical therapy. You want to get to the root cause of some type of movement dysfunction that's going on that's causing the issue, where the pain medicine hasn't been able to solve, the pain patches haven't been able to solve, and sitting
Hmm.
and resting haven't been able to solve.
That's
So we
right.
have some movement dysfunction, and I'm using my certifications in orthopedics. So that's where my other certifications are. I specialize in orthopedics. So that's your bones, your joints, your muscles. I'm certified in manual therapy and also dry needling. So when you mention modalities, dry needling is one of the toolbox things that I'm able to pull out where it's going deeper into the muscles. And just to go into a tangent, because I know a lot of people are like, ooh, dry needling, what's
Right.
that?
Needling.
Acupuncture? Acupuncture is based more on Eastern medicine. I'm not certified, so I won't go into the definition. But dry needling is something relatively new in the past, like 20 years or so. You've got more research coming out and supporting it. And not only a physical therapist can be certified, but it can also be a physician, it can be occupational therapist. And you're using a tool that's similar to an acupuncturist. It is a monofilament needle. So it's a small, tiny needle that you actually puncture the skin to get deeper into the muscles. You're not looking to draw blood. You're not doing any injections. You're
Mhm.
just using a tool the same way you would use your hands. So that's one of the things that I really love to see, the cause and effect. So I do a treat, I do a test, a treatment, and then a retest. So that's the typical way that I'll assess my patients as well. So I'll
Okay.
test them. What's not moving? What's the muscle that's a problem? I'll do a treatment like dry needling. I love dry needling because when we go back to retest in the same increment of maybe 5 or 10 minutes, we're like, oh, we see a big change. We see less pain, we see more motion, and we're able to see that implementation of what we're doing
Mhm.
actually facilitated with that patient so they feel better. So that's what I do in the in-person side of things. I have been able to transition with my company, Renaissance Rehab, where I'm able to make that accessible to anyone. So for my company, it's actually taking my physical therapy skills, and instead of using my licensure and being bound to insurance and these systems, I'm able to approach anyone virtually, and I'm using the same movement medicine that I'm able to apply, knowing how the body moves, doing a virtual assessment to be able to say, hey, what problems do we really need to emphasize and get you moving with to be able to see a change? And I've seen a lot of success in that, where it takes away a lot of excuses. If I'm working with someone virtually with my business, Renaissance Rehab, you have no excuse to say, oh, I couldn't make it today, like your mom, the traffic, oh, the time. I'm
Oh,
making this based off your schedule, based off your equipment,
balling.
based off whatever barriers you have, so we can create a change in your lifestyle since you came to me and you said you're ready to change.
So that's very interesting because I was looking at your page and looking over a few things. But I think I didn't quite glean that, from there, where basically you can see these folks virtually, just like we do in the MD world or just with my personal practice. So you can actually see these. We can do a consult. Let's say if I said, well, I've got this difficult patient, we haven't quite gotten through to them, but they're at least willing to talk, to somebody else or another professional and say, I want to refer to you, or you can be a consult for their chronic pain or whatever's going on. Uh, Um, is it so? Can you consult with them? Do you have to have a specific license in that state, or it doesn't matter? Like you can do the virtual no matter where they are.
That's a good question. I like that you asked that. I'm going to go in a little bit deeper so I can emphasize and clarify with this.
Okay.
So just like a physician might do a telehealth, we're doing Telehealth Tuesday right here. We're here face to face. To be in a dynamic like this with any healthcare professional that's telehealth, that's going to be under the umbrella of insurance and with licensure. Okay.
Mhm.
For what I have done with my business, I've stepped out of that realm. I'm not using the insurance, what we identify as CPT codes, and you're familiar with ICD 10 codes. We're not using all of that insurance lingo and language, and I'm
Oh,
not diagnosing anyone, and I'm not doing that treatment under physical therapy licensure like I would.
okay.
We have tons of personal trainers and wellness coaches and things across the world and across the platform of social media, everywhere. What I'm doing is stepping into those same shoes where I'm able to do cash pay and have that interface with everyone without using my licensure, but I'm using my expertise and my knowledge for the movement and the body.
Okay. Okay.
So that takes away that barrier of, oh, the insurance, oh, the licensure, I can't work with you in this state. Anybody, theoretically across the world, if you've got internet and you're able to reach me, we can be able to set up and work together to be able to address what you have going on. And I'm using my expertise and what I know for the muscles and for the body, but I'm not necessarily diagnosing you, and we're not doing treatment codes and all the insurance things. And so the beauty of that is I have the freedom and the reign to be able to make a budget plan, and I customize things for you to really knock down a lot of those barriers and make it accessible for you to change your lifestyle.
Okay. Did you guys hear that? Did y'all hear that? That is amazing. That is cutting edge right there because, like you said, that pretty much eliminates the barrier. Just like, hey, $99 a month at Good Faith Wellness. You unlimited visits. If you miss one, hey, come tomorrow. It's all included in your plan. So same thing when you go to see Dr. Johnson Renaissance Rehab. If it's virtual, hey, she's taking out the middleman or the middle person. We got to be, these days.
You're inclusive.
Be inclusive, yeah. So you have cut that person out, and they can go straight to you and hear it from you first. And so I love that. So I think we'll have to talk offline and see what we can work some things out. We might be able to, and try to get people on track and help our patients. Um, I know we're getting probably about 15 more minutes. So I wanted you guys, if there's anyone that does have any questions, make sure you speak up and ask now, forever hold your peace. We are talking about, again, chronic pain. I see a few people join for those that are just coming on. Telehealth Tuesday, we're here with Dr. Ari Johnson, and we're talking about chronic pain. We're talking about something that plagues Americans, millions and millions of people, and even folks worldwide. And so we have taking a deep dive just now. We're getting into some of the particulars about how do we motivate patients? How do we help these patients? How does what is a day in the life of Dr. Ari Johnson? When you come into the clinic, or whether you're virtual, when you come in, you've given her your symptoms. If you're in person, she's going to do her exam and assessment and go from there. And so we want to talk about not just doom and gloom and despair, but the fact that on the other side, there is hope. There is the grass can be greener, and there's sun at the end of that rainbow, not just gold, because I don't know if it's any gold. I don't know. Somebody lied to me, and a leprechaun. But anyway, so let's.
We'll say this: a life without pain is worth its weight in gold. So you'll find that gold on the other end.
Life without pain is worth its weight in gold. Did you hear that? I love it. So, um, would you say that the majority of your patients, do you feel that the majority of them that you've been blessed to be able to help them, even if, because we know that some people are just never going to be pain free, but do you feel like pretty much um, nearly everyone, if not everyone, you're able to help in some way without the use of narcotics?
Yeah, I really like that you made that distinction. So sometimes it's not about getting to 100% pain free. And I'm completely honest about that. Like I said, with chronic pain, it might be someone that's diagnosed as chronic when they just have had pain for 3 months, and it could be 3 years, it could be 30 years. I've seen everyone on that spectrum. And I usually say the longer that you're in pain, the longer it may take to get out of pain. So that's why I really emphasize to anyone who this podcast this falls on your ears, to know you need to make action today, because the longer you put it off and the longer you delay, the longer it's going to take to be able to make a correction. I use analogies like cars all the time. The longer that you go without changing your oil, changing your air filters, your tires, your brakes, all of these things, it's just going to run your car into the ground. And now it costs even more to be able to fix a simple repair that you could have done some maintenance on. So that's what
We
I
know.
comparison with the body. So if I have that person that's neglected their maintenance of their body, or they've had some type of unfortunate illness or things going on or injury, I
Hmm.
let them know, hey, the goal is to get you to function with the quality of life that you're happy with. Because at that point, they have gotten to a place where they're unhappy with their life and they finally decided to do something, right?
That's
My
right.
role in intervention is to say, hey, right now, you can't stand up for 5 minutes. So, with all of my patients, majority of my patients that I work with, I see at least some type of change in that, where if they're putting in that work and they're trying to really shoot for that goal, and they're trusting me with that process, where I know it hurts to try and stand up 6 minutes because we can't stand up five. But the more we're able to introduce new movements and things, they finish with me and they're able to stand up 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They're able to stand up at their son's wedding, being able to cook a meal. And that makes a lot of difference for
That's
somebody
huge.
that hasn't been able to do that in years.
That's huge.
I share my favorite story that I like to share about working with someone with back pain. I always come to any case with optimism, regardless of whatever someone's encountered, because they need that. They're coming to me when they're probably in the worst part of their life.
That's
I
true.
had a patient where he did have pain probably close to as long as I've been alive. He was a military veteran and he had an injury. He had had physical therapy 2 or 3 other times before me.
Hmm.
By the time I was working with him and I had that honest conversation where I told him, I'm not going to promise to get you out of your pain completely, but I do want you to be able to go and travel like you enjoy to and
Yeah.
live your life. It touched my heart by the time we finished working together that he was like, I really do feel a difference. I
Wow.
can tell where I can actually go and walk the airport now. He traveled to
Wow.
Germany and brought me back souvenirs, and he was like, I feel a difference. And for me to be the provider after he had seen two other providers in physical therapy, probably countless other specialists and people, and had pain pills and things, and I came with that optimism and I was able to actually make a difference, that meant the world to me.
Yeah, and that's the biggest like compliment, someone could ever give. I had asked my mom, she's not she won't I'm sure doesn't want to come on camera, but she's literally right, to the right, on my right. And I wanted to know, since you weren't able, to usually join, she'll say Lily James is watching, and she'll always, is a big supporter. But I know we had some things going on here, and she's been working to do some things around the house, and so, but she's been listening to everything. So I just wanted to know, Mom, is there anything that since you are unfortunately one of these people that suffers from chronic pain, just debilitating, she's utilizing a walker to get around, it's all kind of posture, hunched over, and it saddens me even to see it. It's hard to see that. Is there anything that you would like to ask Dr. Johnson, or any comments you wanted to make?
I've just been listening, and she has some good, great ideas, and I like what I've been hearing.
Mhm. Um, what do you feel like the hardest thing is about having chronic pain, and um, having to navigate through that every day of your life?
It's it's just annoying because I know I can accomplish the same goals and get the same work amount of work done, but enjoy it because I wouldn't be feeling bad.
Hmm.
That really speaks to me. I was actually just visiting my friend. We're the same age. She's in her 30s and she's had back pain her entire life. And with
Wow.
patients that I've seen, and with even you expressing what you're saying, it really hits me where people don't really hear the impact in that. Where you're saying one of the reasons why it might be a deterrent for you going to physical therapy is because it's not that your pain is keeping you from doing anything, and you've probably talked to so many people about it and become a little discouraged, where you're just like, well, this is how it is. It's not that I can't do anything. This is something that I just have to live with. So for you and for anybody that's listening, that they're like, hey, this is just something I just have to live with, I just have pain all the time, we see, we can see the change in your demeanor, where how you express the loss of your enjoyment, where even just that flat affect and that tone that I see with my patients that have chronic pain. It's
Yeah.
not that we need to be able to say, hey, we're going to magically solve everything, and you just need to have some realistic hope, where I just want to be able to stand for a little bit while I wash my clothes, wash my dishes. And that hope, and just knowing that you can be able to have that change like I had with my patient. I didn't try and sell him a dream. I was like, hey, we're going to work small and we're going to get there. And then I could see that brightness come back to him and to all my patients, where I see that little bit of change where they think no hope is there. So just still being persistent and knowing, if you want to manifest a life with a certain outcome without pain, or be able to go to a wedding or cook a meal, the more you're able to walk in that direction, get that help, the more likely that outcome is going to happen. Okay.
Hmm.
Sounds like you might have a new patient there, Doc.
I love to hear that. Come and see me. We'll chat.
Okay.
um, let's see here, getting this. There we go. Just looking at a couple of messages here and trying to get through these couple of questions here.
You know,
But oh, go ahead.
I think it's really easier for people who are accustomed to pain, or who had problems for a long time. I don't know, but I think it would be easier for them to adjust. If you're somebody who's not accustomed to having pain, and being able to go about and do whatever it is you need to do without thinking about the energy and the effort that are required for you to be able to perform certain tasks. I think it's easiest. I think it's really bad on a person when you're not used to having, having difficulty and having pain. It's like, I don't know, sometimes what Michael, when I talked to him about washing dishes and he had something to say, I said, I've never liked having dishes in the sink and I don't mind washing dishes. It's not that, that this is a problem for me. I've never been a lazy person, but when the body just doesn't feel like it, that does make a difference in how you approach getting performing certain tasks.
I like that you mentioned that too, because that mental component has a big role that it plays. So I touched on it a little bit. I said like how your demeanor will change. I talked about
Mhm.
like manifestation and having that hope, where in general, the power of our neuroplasticity and what we can do with our brain
That's right.
it can have leaps and bounds of an effect on how I work with the patient. So that's why I say I come with that positivity. I come with that realistic hope where if a patient can be on board with me and they can believe me, half the time I wonder if I'm even as good a provider as I am, or if they just believe now where they finally have somebody that can partner with them that they didn't have that before. And that just makes all the difference when we look at the research and the placebo effect and just what our brain can do with mental imagery and being able to have the power to say, hey, we're going to change the reality that we're living and then shift like our brain chemistry that's also contributing to this chronic inflammation. So there's so
Mm,
many things when it comes to the brain and the influence when it comes to the chronic pain that we'll miss out on as providers if we only acknowledge what's going on at the back and at this localized area that somebody has an issue with.
Mhm.
absolutely.
True.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I think, that's one of the things where people always say, well, what is it that, what is it that, separates providers or separates people, and why are you in medicine? Why should a person come, to Good Faith Wellness Center? And I said, because not only do I feel like we put together an all-star team of providers, two MDs and a chiropractor, but beyond that, it's the fact that, like you said, the three of us think so alike when it comes to trying to get down there to understand the patient from that deeper level and not just push medicine on people, not just rush you out and barely step in the room for 5 minutes, and or we just all about trying to get a sound bite for TV. No, this is real life, and we want to. The three of us for sure, I know, without a shadow of a doubt, got in this because we want to help people get better. We want to affect change, and so I love what you said about the fact that just kind of breaking through to say, like you said, we see you. You said that we see you, and sometimes it just takes that comforting or that soft voice to let a person know that, hey, you are a person with, like, the other thing you said was, we may not know what it feels like to be you, or to be in your shoes, or to suffer from whatever it is that you're going through, but not only do we have the actual objective data or the expertise to help you, but we actually give a darn. We actually know from whom our help comes from, and we want the best for you. And it's not just about money, or So I feel like I think you probably are. We're kind of very similar in that.
I do. I agree with you, especially even with your name, with good faith, putting faith right there in there. That person acknowledging the fact that we have the privilege of having a person come to you and acknowledging that piece of they having faith that you're going to be the person that makes the change with all the other healthcare providers that they could have seen and all the other things that they could have done to be able to solve their problem. And
That's
then
right.
us in turn having faith in the fact that we have the abilities, we have the expertise, and we have the knowledge. Because
Mhm.
one thing, especially even to anybody who's an aspiring healthcare provider that's listening, I love to say, and how we mentioned about your medical provider and what sets you apart, being humble and acknowledging the fact that this is a medical practice. We
Practice.
are we are in practice. We practice physical therapy, we practice medicine. So being humble enough to acknowledge the fact that we don't know everything,
That's
but
right.
have faith that the things that we do know, we're going to be able to help somebody. And the connections that we've been able to graciously make are going to be able to help to bolster us to connect that patient to another provider if they need that, or being able to lean on our community and the people that we have around us to
Mm,
and have the resources to make that change for that person that's in front of us too.
that's right. Absolutely. Um, I'd like to give you the, I think we got about 5 more minutes before we close. I would love for you to tell the audience, there's a few people that have joined. I can look on the counter there. I'd love for you to let them know who you are, where you're calling from, how you can be reached, whether or not you're taking new patients on, and how they can contact you.
My name is Dr. Ari Johnson. I am a licensed doctor of physical therapy with a background and specialty in orthopedics. I have my business online virtual platform with a name of Renaissance Rehab on Instagram, and I can be found by my website www.myrenaissancerehab.com. I'm welcome to any patients. If you want to reach out to me, you're more than welcome to look at my schedule and schedule a free virtual assessment. And we can talk through some of these problems, these barriers that you have, and do an assessment to see if we can be able to solve your chronic back pain. I also have resources available on my Instagram and my website that give information on these healthy habits for eating, for diabetes, blood sugar, reading the back of a nutrition food label, and having just a little foundation of what you need to do. And also, in addition to my resources on back pain, what type of back pain, and then some exercises. So feel free to connect with me on any of those resources and platforms, and being able to talk about how to change what you have going on. Because if you do what you've done today, you're going to get what you've gotten, the same product tomorrow.
Man, I don't think I could say it any better. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love for you to put your hands together if you've been blessed tonight by those words, Dr. Ariel. I see Shell's Kitchen. Now look, Doc. Now on a lighter note, look, I see Shell's Kitchen right there. Now we talked about all this good stuff about health and all that. Now, Shell, you got to look up Shell's Kitchen on Instagram and Facebook alike. Now, it ain't nothing healthy about it. Now you correct me if I'm wrong. Now, you may have some low calorie dishes, but we put it out there. If you go to my page, Doc, I think was it last Sunday, we had collard greens, cornbread. There was fried fish, macaroni. So we certainly were not eating healthy, but it's delicious. She's an amazing person, amazing human being, and amazing food. Shell's Kitchen. So shout out to her. And if you haven't had it, if you have not tried her cuisine, I don't know what's wrong with you. And so Michelle, I don't know if you shipped it. Can you send food to Atlanta? Can you ship to Atlanta? So no.
I need to definitely check that out. I know people look at me and they hear me speak and they think I don't eat those kind of things. It's okay to have that every now and then. It's the indulgence and knowing moderation and
Right.
being able to spread your habits across the board, where you're not always eating those things that are going to lead to these healthy habits. So take away
Yeah.
some of that guilt, and that's okay.
Okay, all right. I appreciate it. I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better. She said I'll make an exception and I'll definitely ship. Marsha Smith says agreed. More natural foods from the earth, herbs, some MDs. When you mention, we're saying maybe like aches. A prescription is written out, mainly Band-Aid. Exactly. And like I said, Good Faith Wellness, and I'm sure it. Renaissance, we don't do band-aids, and if we do band-aids, it's only temporary. But what we want to do is get down to the nitty-gritty and get down to what's really causing this, what's causing the issues. And like Dr. Johnson said it could be a psychological, and most of these are. There's some deep psychological thing going on that's preventing things, like a barrier, preventing things from getting through. But we want to work together. We are a team, and physical therapy, the doctor, the chiropractor, we all need to work together. Um, we all care about our patients. We want the best for you guys, and we want the best for ourselves as well. So again, thank you all so much for taking the time to spend with us for another Telehealth Tuesday session. We are here each and every Tuesday, God willing, for your listening and viewing pleasure and edification, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Next week, we're going to be joined by an amazing person who's going to make you look good, make you look like the person that you used to recognize, because she is I don't want to get this wrong. Now, she's a beautician, a hairstylist, loctician. Please don't kill me if I've got some of those wrong now. But I've gone through her stuff on Instagram. She's amazing. She's been a celebrity hairstylist and all that good stuff. You don't want to miss it. And how does this tie into health? Because we know that, when you look better, you normally do better. You normally function better. What was it Coach Prime said, when they play good, they pay good, and all that.
Good, you feel good, all those things.
Yeah, you
That
remember
goes back
that?
to that psychological component we talked about.
That's it, psychological. So she's going to be in the building. I'm not even going to say the name, because I want you to make sure that you sign on. You log on to DoctorBTV, DOCTOR, the letter BTV, which is our YouTube page. Make sure to stay tuned for all the latest and greatest updates. Share, tag, like, follow, and subscribe so you can find out who this person is. Some of you that are in Mississippi and Jackson, Mississippi, you might know who I'm talking about. You've seen her on TV and all other places. So she's going to be in the building right here with us, God willing, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, like we always are. So we'll see you on a Tuesday. We want to again thank Dr. Ariel Thompson, thank Shell's Kitchen, thank my lovely mother, Lily James, is watching. Crystal is here. Who else is here? Some other folk. I think I saw Miss Garrett. Keisha Garrett was on there on Instagram. And all of our new folks, thank you all for watching. We truly appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Doc, if you could just hang on for a second, I'm going to get your opinion on something real quick. So if you'll just hang on, we'll run the credits and then we'll wrap real quick, if that's okay with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Sora. All right. And big shout out to Sigma Sigma Lambda, Clinton, Mississippi. A5. We'll see you next time. Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Bookhardt. Come join us at our newest clinic location at Good Faith Wellness Center. We provide compassionate health care for your entire family, from virtual visits to office appointments. We're committed to providing the best care. We accept all insurances, and we provide monthly wellness plans. Let's start your family journey to a healthier, happier life. Schedule your appointment today. And remember, true wealth begins with good health.